Well, hello, beloved. I am so happy to be with you today. And welcome to Reading with Regina. And I want to give a big shout out to all of my subscribers. You know I love you dearly. And I want to give a special shout out to my new subscribers as well. I'm going to get right into the books because I have a lot to say about what I'm going to read to you today. So, especially for my new subscribers, look at some of my previous episodes and you will find out what I have to say about the importance of reading and being read to, because it is very important. Good for your health, it's good for your intellect. All right, now I'm going to get right down with it. We're going to start with Desirose. And I want to remind people that Desirose is about an actual sister who was pregnant during slavery, and she led a rebellion aboard a coffle. And this is a coffle. But let me go back to Dessa. Now, what I'm going to read to you is a passage, and it takes place between Miss Rufel. You know, she runs the plantation, which the enslaved people call a maroon colony, but it's no white man there. Her husband is not there. We don't know where her husband is, but most importantly, he is not there. And Dessa was rescued from her jail in the cellar and taken to this maroon colony. And this is a conversation that Nathan, one of Dessa's rescuers, one of the brothers that was on the coffle that slayed their enemy, okay, the enslavers. And this is Nathan, and he's talking to Rufel. At first, Nathan had ignored her teasing remarks. Wait a minute, let me get this right. No, I don't want to start there. Okay, here we go. At first, Nathan had ignored her teasing remarks, then laughingly denied them. One day he burst out in genuine annoyance. Course I'm sweet on Dessa. Cully is sweet on Dessa. He laughed harshly. You've been through with someone what we've been through together, and you'd be sweet on him too, he said, turning away from Rufel. Rufel realized with dismay that he was really upset. Nathan, she said contritely, you know I'm only teasing. After a moment, he turned back to her. You see, so many people beat up by slavery, Mrs., he said wearily, turned into snakes and animals, poor excuses even for their own selves. And the coffle bring out the worst sometime. Either that it either kills you or you kill. And it didn't in Dessa, he sighed. I feels bad for all them that didn't make it. Worse for all them that didn't die. That even now living in slavery after we've been free. But us three, that's Nathan, Cully, and Harker, we did it. And we made it. It's got to be some special feeling after that. What Nathan is discussing here with Rufel. Rufel can't imagine why these three brothers are so fascinated with the good sister Dessa, because she doesn't know revolutionary love. They will always have that bond because they were in rebellion together. Okay, and this is what Nathan is explaining to her. I'll continue. This is Nathan. What's going to happen when the master come back here? It was high summer, the weather hot, sultry. Rufel and Nathan had sat in a companionable silence, sweating, speaking lazily now and then, of one thing or another. This question made Rufel's stomach lurch. Why, nothing. She had not thought about Bertie, that's her husband, in weeks, and even now his name did not awaken the familiar terror over his whereabouts. Rather, she was uneasy that Nathan should ask about him. He going to give us a share of the crop like you did? Nathan asked almost idly. Share the crop? The words echoed in Rufel's mind. That might mean something this year. Harker said they were likely to make 30 bales of cotton and close to 100 bushels of corn, in addition to the oats and potatoes. Cotton was the only cash crop, but it was ridiculous to suppose that Bertie was likely to share any part of the harvest. Or he going to try to claim us as his? Nathan continued quietly. Rufus looked at Nathan, unable to answer truthfully. He might, she knew. Bertie might do anything. Her stomach tightened at the thought. He would want to enslave them. He didn't believe in sassy Negroes, small n, or smart Negroes, small n, or free Negroes, small n. That was why he couldn't keep a field hand on the place. He drove them hard and stinted on their food and clothing. Rufus knew this without ever having really seen it. Mammy had made sure that any darky who worked in or near the house was clean. Bertie had not encouraged Rufus to roam much beyond the house and yard. She had seen the hands from a distance when she rode out to the fields with Bertie now and then. They did look wretched, he had admitted, but then slavery was a wretched lot. And she had accepted this as long as she didn't hear the screams. Now, what were those screams? That's black people being beat. Rufus bit her lip. Could she be that blind again? And these people would not be beaten or sold? She licked her lips. I wouldn't let him sell y'all. He looked at her with a humorous lift to his mouth, and Rufus flushed. She would have no more rights than they when Bertie came back. We don't have to be here when he come back, he said, leaning toward her. Harker got a plan. Let us be far away if you help us. Uneasy but intrigued, despite herself, Rufus listened as Nathan continued earnestly. Remember I told you his old master was a flim-flam man, a confidence man? Well, they had one scheme they used when they was down on their luck. They would go into a strange town and his master would sell Harker, auction him off. After a couple of days, Harker would run off and join him at a place they'd already picked out. They do that in a couple of towns till they got a stake together again. Harker figured we could go down in the Black Belt and run that scheme 3 or 4 times, using me and him, maybe 2 or 3 others. We could make maybe $9,000 or $10,000, and we'd split the money. That'd be 5,000 cash dollars for you, 5,000 cash dollars for us to get away from here on. Rufus was a little repelled by the scheme, but she was amused by it. Now, okay, let me say a few more words about this. Do you see the creativity? Because this did happen in real life. Let me show you this picture again. Now, this is a 19th century portrait on which this book, Dust of Rose, is based in the 19th century. Do you see the brother on the table? All right, that is an enslaved kid. All right, he's about 14 or 15 or 16 years old. These white men are gambling. And instead of actual money, they could use a slave to barter for or to pay their debt in cards. So what Harker had come up with, Harker, Nathan, and Cully were on the coffle. Let me show that again. On the coffle with Dessa. You dig? And it was Dessa that got out of those chains first. And then she got the brothers out of the chains. And then they took care of real good business of resisting enslavement. So now they're on this plantation with Miss Rufus, a white woman, a mistress, but her man is not there. So they are coming up with ways that they can all make some kind of money and move it forward. That is Black creativity. That is Black resistance, another form of Black resistance during the enslavement period. I may come back to that, but I also want to go to Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs or Linda Brent. And as I always do, I want to show you this woman because I gave you the wrong name of her last time we were together. I said that she was Julia Mariah Child. Her name is Lydia Mariah Child, and she made sure that Linda Brent's book, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, got published. Now, let me tell you about this book again. This is a true story. This is not a novel. This is a biography of Linda Brent, and she tells us what she endured while she was enslaved. Now, the last time we were together, I told you that the chapter was called Linda Finds Love. But her owner, her master, her pedophile groomer, because he'd been after the kids since she was 14. She's 16 now. And she's fallen in love with a brother, a free black man. But her master does not want to let her go. So I want everybody, especially black people, listen to me. I really want you to understand how slavery worked. Okay? Why? Why do I want you to understand that? Because slavery is still on your mind. I know that. It might not be in this visceral form. Okay, I'm getting ready. I can feel myself getting ready to start preach. I don't want to be preaching. I want to get to the book, and then I will talk to you a little bit. Now, what Linda has done, she went to another white person, because see, black people at that time had so little power that we couldn't solve our own issues with white people who owned us. So she went to a friend of Dr. Flint, that's her owner, and had her intervene to make Dr. Flint let her go, to let her be married so she could have her own life. And this is what happened. That woman had an interview with the doctor, and I believe she pleaded my cause earnestly, but it was all to no purpose. How I dreaded my master now. Every minute I expected to be summoned to his presence. But the day passed, and I heard nothing from him. The next morning, a message was brought to me. Master wants to see you in his study. I found the door ajar, and I stood a moment gazing at the hateful man who claimed a right to rule me, body and soul. I entered and tried to appear calm. I did not want him to know how my heart was bleeding. He looked fixedly at me with an expression which seemed to say, I have half a mind to kill you on the spot. At last he broke the silence, and that was a relief to both of us. So, you want to be married, do you? Said he. And to a free nigger? Yes, sir. Well, I'll soon convince you whether I am your master or the nigger fella you honor so highly. If you must have a husband, you may take up with one of my slaves. What a situation I should be in as the wife of one of his slaves. Even if my heart had been interested, I replied, don't you suppose, sir, that a slave can have some preference about marrying? Do you suppose that all men are alike to her? Do you love this nigger? Said he abruptly. Yes, sir. How dare you tell me so? Can you believe this? How dare you tell me so? He exclaimed in great wrath. After a slight pause, he added, I suppose you thought more of yourself, that you felt above the insults of such puppies. I replied, if he is a puppy, I am a puppy, for we are both of the Negro race, small n. It is right and honorable for us to love each other. The man you call a puppy never insulted me, sir, and he would not love me if he did not believe me to be a virtuous woman. Dr. Flint sprang upon her like a tiger and gave her a stunning blow. He beat her. He beat this young woman because she dared to want to marry a black man. He beat her. He forbade her to be married, people. I just wanted to stress that point that you might not have recognized or realized that went on during our bondage in America. Okay. It was the first time he had ever struck me, and fear did not enable me to control my anger. When I had recovered a little from the effects, I exclaimed, "You have struck me for answering you honestly. How I despise you." There was silence for some minutes. Perhaps he was deciding what he should do for my punishment, or perhaps he wanted to give me time to reflect on what I had said and to whom I had said it. Finally he asked, "Do you know what you have said?" "Yes, sir, but your treatment drove me to it." "Do you know that I have the right," now listen to this carefully, people. "Do you know that I have a right to do as I like with you? That I can kill you if I please?" "You have tried to kill me, and I wish you had, but you have no right to do as you like with me." "Silence!" he exclaimed in a thundering voice. "By heaven, girl, you forget yourself too far. Are you mad? If you are, I will soon bring you to your senses. Do you think any other master would bear what I have borne from you this morning? Many masters would have killed you on the spot. How would you like to be sent to jail for your insolence?" Brothers and sisters, when I first read this years ago, I was stunned, and I hope you are. All this young girl wants to do is get married. But her owner refuses to let her get married. And check this. She wants to get married to a free Negro, right? He's a carpenter. So he was probably lent out. His master made a lot of money on him. The good brother probably saved some of his money and bought his freedom. You understand that? Now, him and Linda have been friends for a long time. And he decided he wanted to marry her, and she is in love with him. But instead of enslaved people just being able to be married, no. Linda had to go to her master and ask him for permission to marry. And you see what her master did? He struck her. He even told her that he could kill her. And if he had killed her, do you think he'd have went to jail for killing the blood? For killing the black woman? Absolutely not. So I really, really wanted you all to understand. You sisters, I want you to understand what Linda felt as a woman. And you brothers, I want you to understand what that free black man, the carpenter who wanted to marry her, how helpless he was. See, slavery was put in a position to make the enslaved be as helpless as possible. And there were no laws to help them because slavery was perfectly legal. I need you to understand that. Let me get going with the final book that I'm going to read and then discuss. Clotel, or the President's Daughter. Clotel was one of the daughters of Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson had many enslaved children, men and women, boys and girls. But this is about Clotel. Now, the section of this book, and this is another 19th century book. It is written by William Wells Brown, who was actually an enslaved man himself. All right, now. This, what I'm about to read to you, it is a little difficult, but you need to know these things. This is not about Clotel and Horatio, her enslaver who purchased her. Okay? But he married a true white woman. He didn't stay with Clotel, although he wanted to be with Clotel. But he also wanted to move up in politics, and he certainly couldn't have a black wife during the period of enslavement. But this is not about them. This is about medicine and slavery. Now, this is an advertisement that I'm going to read to you. This was in the newspapers at the time. To planners and others, wanted 50 Negroes, any person having sick Negroes considered incurable by their respective physicians, their owners, of course, and wishing to dispose of them, Dr. Stillman will pay cash for Negroes affected with scrofula or king's evil, confirmed hypochondriacism, whatever that is, apoplexy, or diseases of the brain, kidneys, spleen, stomach and intestines, bladder and appendages, diarrhea, dysentery. I will pay the highest price, cash price, will be paid as above. When I read this today, I thought that the advertiser must be a man of eminent skill as a physician, and that he intended to cure the sick Negroes. But on second thought, I find that some of the diseases enumerated are certainly incurable. What can he do with these sick Negroes? You see, replied Mr. Peck, these are two white men talking, laughing, that he is a doctor and has used them in his lectures. The doctor is connected with a small college. Look at his prospectus, where he invites students to attend, and that will explain the matter to you. Carlton turned to another column and read the following. Some advantages of a peculiar character are connected with this institution, which it may be proper to point out. No place in the United States offers as great opportunities for the acquisition of anatomical knowledge, subjects being obtained from among the colored population in sufficient numbers for every purpose, and proper dissections carried on without offending any individuals in the community. These are for dissection then? Negroes are for dissection then? Yes, answered the parson. Of course, they wait until they die before they can use them. They keep them on hand. We are talking about our ancestors here. We are talking about doctors during the slavery period that did experiments on black people. And that too was legal. I'll continue. They keep them on hand, and when they need one, they bleed him to death, returned Mr. Peck. Yes, this is the other white guy. But that's murder. Oh, the doctors are licensed to commit murder, you know. And what's the difference, whether one dies owing to the loss of blood or taking too many pills? For my own part, if I had to choose, I would rather submit to the former. I have often heard that what I considered hard stories in abolition meetings in New York about slavery. But now I shall begin to think that many of them are true. And they were true. Of course they were true. Let me just really emphasize what's going on here. Black people were used by doctors teaching the anatomy of the body, and they would dissect. Dissect means to cut up black people's bodies so that they could look at the liver, so that they could look at the spleen, so that they could look at the scrotum, whatever. And if the Negroes were alive, doctors had a license to kill them so that they could teach white medical students about the human body. Now, if you want more information about this, I strongly encourage you to get this book called Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington. And I'm going to read the subtitle because it's important. The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times, that's the 1700s, to the very present. Check this out. This book that I'm reading you, this is the 1900s. This is the 1900s, where they were experimenting on Black people. And let me just, many of you might also already know about this syphilis, the horrible syphilis experiments they did on Black people in the South. I think it was in the 1920s or 30s, somewhere in there, where they literally gave Black men syphilis. They lied to them and said they were giving them vitamin C or something like that. They gave them syphilis. Many of the men died because they wanted to track how syphilis goes throughout the body. So white people have been experimenting on Black people for centuries. Do you understand that, people? I want you to understand that. Now let me read this horrible little poem that's at the end of this chapter on the Black people's dissection. This poem is called My Little Nig. I have a little nigger, the blackest thing alive. He'll be just 4 years old if he lives till 45. His smooth cheek hath a glossy hue, like a new polished boot, and his hair curls o'er his little head, as black as any suit. His lips bulge from his countenance, his little ivory shine. His nose is what we call a little pug, but fashioned very fine. Although not quite a fairy, he is comely to behold, and I wouldn't sell him, pun my word, for 100 all in gold. He gets up early in the morn, like all the other little nigs, and runs off to the hog lot where he squabbles with the pigs. I'm not gonna it goes on. I'm not gonna read any more of that, but I am gonna talk about this. The N-word. Okay? I know that many people within my race still use that word. And I'm not going to lie, I have used it too. But I really want my listeners to understand where that word comes from. It comes from the basement. It comes from the basest part of a white man's mind. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? So just about every time you use that word, you are bringing back a history, a terrible history of when we were cursed by the enslavers. Understand that too. One of the reasons that I created Readings with Regina is because this uncomfortable history is a history that needs to be taught to yourself, to your children, and your grandchildren. Yes, it should not be hidden. And I know that many Black people don't want to go there. I can dig it. It bothers me. But you must go there. Check this. If you are ill mentally today, if you go to see any psychologist or psychiatrist, the first thing they're going to do is take you back. They're going to take you back. They're not going to deal right up front with what is bothering you. No. You have to go back to come forward, my people. And let me even put this in a context of today. The United States has medical, biological laboratories all over the world. They had 30 in Ukraine. Oh, yes, they did. Yes, they did. And what were these biological labs for? They were for creating diseases. Because you could use biological warfare against an enemy. I want you to think too about what's going on in your country right now. How many wars are we just about putting together? Huh? Huh? Another thing about biolabs. If you create a disease, then the pharmaceutical companies have to come up with a remedy. You see this kind of thinking? America was built on the eradication of Native Americans. I will say that often. Why will I say that often? Because we are living through a genocide right now in Gaza that we can see. There's no hiding from it. So I need you, Black people, to recognize your history and how your history from that period of time in America during slavery fits the rubric of what America is involved in right now. That is important. Don't run from it. And you want to make sure, okay, that more people know about this history, okay? Because we need to make moves as a people against the tyranny that goes on in this country. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about this is this. When some of you feel uneasy, you're not sure, you feel stupid, you just don't feel right, that's one of your ancestors or many of your ancestors urging you to rectify this history. I'm not reading you fairy tales. This really happened to our people. Dissection, molestation, okay, murder. This is our history. Well, let me come up and tell you something sweet. I love you all for listening to me. I really do. I do this because I absolutely adore you. Revolutionary love that Huey Newton and Bobby Seale taught. Okay? The kind of love that Nathan, Cully, and Harker felt for Dessa Rose. They loved her because she was a resistor. And I love all my people. And I want us to unify and do as well as we can among each other while we are on this planet. Okay, brothers and sisters, my time is up. And I will see you next week, next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Take very good care in the meantime.